First, I want to talk about the dynamics and gating that's in the Sonnox Dynamics plugin. I use this basically on almost every channel. It's my first dynamics that I reach for when I'm going through my plugin folder. But I'll show you some instances in this project I'm working on right now. It's a remix I'm working on. It's a vocal house record, and I'll show you some of the ways that I use the dynamics for especially the gating and the compressor sections of it. And I also use the warmth algorithm too to add a bit of distortion and warm up some signals in some places. First, let me show you how I'm using the dynamics on the vocal.
Take a look at all the things you've got. Nothing ever seems to hit the spot.
Okay, so as you see, I have the compressor in here. The gate I'm not using in this instance because I'm using another gate previous in the chain. But I have a limiter just to protect the output signal and a bit of compression. I usually start with the Sony Bus preset. It loads in the compressor, the warmth, the limiter, and I'll start from there and usually tweak. I ended up with 57%. Around 57% of the warmth on that vocal there. And you see I'm using the compressor here, and the gate, like I said, I wasn't used in this one. See, I'll show you some other places in the project where I'm using the Sonnox Dynamics. This is my main sub bass. I'll solo that for you so you can hear it. And that's just a really low bass just to support the main bass sound. This one, as you see, I have the warmth algorithm in 100% because I really want to warm up that low end. And this always sounds really good on bass sounds, especially the lower they are, the better this warmth algorithm sounds. I have a bit of compression again, and a bit of the limiter, just to make the sound pop a little more. And this is kind of my main punchy bass. This is kind of the bass sound that sits right in the middle. And again, I'm using the Oxford Dynamics on that, and pretty much the same settings as the low bass. Have the warmth the whole way up again, limiter, compressor, it's in there. Turn the dithering off.
Look at all the things you've got.
Okay, and I want to talk now about how I use the dynamics on drums. It can be more interesting because you're bringing the gates in more and things like that. Now I'm using mainly soft synths in this arrangement here, and if I was using more live instruments, I would have more instances of the gate in there. But since the nature of virtual instruments, there's not too much of a noise floor, so a lot of places there's not a need for a gate. But I'll show you how I can use the gate in a little more creative way in the drums, especially if you're bringing in a drum loop. You can really change the dynamics of the way it sounds. And here I'm using the gate on this drum loop to kind of clean it up and make it a little more snappy. Especially to clean up the dirt in between the drum hits. And I'll let you hear it without it in. And you can hear a little more of the you can hear a little bit more of the dirt in between the hi-hats and in the claps in there. And this can really, especially when you're making dance music and you're stacking loops on top of loops, all those little bits of noise, little extra bits of the sample that are left in there can really add up and muck up the mix. But you know, when you go through and do careful gating, sometimes extreme, as you see from using the hold and release, you can really control the transient of the signal. And sometimes I might use it to this extreme because I'll have many layers of drums, and this could be just some kind of a supporting loop to give it more of a snap. And but in this instance, it's quite a main loop, so I do have it a bit more natural sounding. A little less gating, less threshold. You can hear the difference there. Again, I'm using the dynamics on the clap. And I'm using the gate. The clap sample had a bit of reverb on it. I'll let you hear it without the gate on it. And I thought it wasn't the best sounding reverb. As you can hear, there's a bit of noise in the reverb tail. I think it had been compressed at one point, and you hear the noise floor coming up. But what I've done is use the gate from the Oxford Dynamics. It's a really smooth sounding gate, so you can almost really get rid of that reverb tail and bring it back to the dry clap sound. And from there, I can just add my own reverb to it and ascend. A little bit of ambience there. So I use the gate to get rid of that reverb, and now I can go back to the dry sound and add my own reverb. Again, I'm using dynamics on this tom sample in a very extreme way here. As you can see, just going to loop this part here. I'm using the gate to quite an extreme. I'll let you hear it without the dynamics in it. So I've used it to completely take some of the drum hits out of this loop. So the gate is getting rid of the kicks in this loop, only letting the toms through. By taking the threshold to quite an extreme setting, and then adjusting the hold a bit. Then after that, I'm hitting the compressor quite a bit to really make those toms come up front. And I have warmth as well on that, at about 60%. To make a whole completely different sound. And I'm also using dynamics on a high kick sample, which I've high pass filtered. and I just wanted to get the beater of the kick, and I'm using the gate here in a pretty extreme way to get rid of. You see how the sample's been cut a little bit, and there's a bit of a click at the end of the kick sample, and I've used the gate to really smooth that out and get rid of it. So I just have more of the attack and less of that tail that has the bit of noise in it.